Yo, what's up, everybody? If you haven't heard about Anchor, let me tell you, this is one of the easiest ways to make a podcast. First of all, it's free. Second of all, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit the podcast right from your phone or computer. Third, Anchor will also distribute for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Then you can also make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Later.
Welcome to The Lion's Den with Seth, a podcast where progressive men and women can learn and teach each other the ways of the land. The Lion's Den is where royalty comes to council. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Seth.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lion's Den. And so we just had a conversation with the Pandora's box, right? Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us and helping us get our fit time to get right. Ain't that what it is?
No, fit my life.
There it is, fit my life, fix my life. Yeah, let's get together. But moving on, we have my friend, your friend, the infamous Miss Danielle Brown. How you doing?
I'm good.
Right. So welcome to the Lion's Den.
Thank you for having me here.
No. So we're about to get it in. And ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to talk about is not just her, but being in a position of leadership and being able to be strong, continue to be strong, but to stay feminine and to keep that swag about yourself. So how do you do it? With grace.
So part of it is just staying true to who you are, right? I'm me, right? Part of it is definitely being vulnerable, not being afraid to show that, which some people equate vulnerability with weakness. I don't. My story is part of what makes me strong. So just staying true to who I am, knowing who I am, which has been a journey for me, for sure, throughout my time in the military, being a mom, being a wife, all of that. But always being able to bring myself back to center and continue to focus.
Okay, well, first thing, where are you from?
So, you and I have talked. I claim Detroit,
Hold on.
right?
Hold on.
You enjoy it.
Wait.
Can you dig it?
All right, where you say you from? From where?
So I claim Detroit.
Okay.
But for those that are not from Michigan, I'm actually from the suburbs. So I'm from Mount Clemens, Michigan, which
Okay,
is very close to
ladies and
Detroit.
gentlemen, let me let y'all know something. That's not Detroit, but it's just enough. So it only take
I spent a lot of time
It
in
only take a
Detroit.
few minutes to get there, so it's all good. We'll give you that pass. So do you think coming from Detroit brings a certain energy?
I think it does, right? You definitely have to be strong, right? You can't let nobody just, try to call you out or anything like that. But at the same time, there were a lot of things that I had to learn being in the job that I am now. So, I have a very stoic face, what people tell me. So
Stoic,
okay, if that's what you want to call it. But being able to let people see me too, right? Being able to know that, hey, I'm not used to just walking up to somebody on the street and just having a conversation, right? That's just not what I did. But now, through growth, through my job, things like that, I've learned to adapt those things into who I am.
So, quick question. What is your current job?
So I am a superintendent for the Comptroller Squadron and Wing Staff agencies here on Scott Air Force Base in the 375th.
So you have a lot of exposure.
I do. So I've been blessed throughout my walk in the Air Force to meet so many great people. Some not so great, but some great.
Right.
That's life.
Right. It is.
That has definitely grown me a lot. I'm born and raised in Michigan, so being exposed to different people didn't really happen until I came into the Air Force.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I know you can too, Will. Being homestead, being here forever, and coming from Detroit, the individuals that I grew up with or around and saw, I really didn't have to deal with, or there was a preconceived notion of who they are and how they operate.
For sure.
Now, you experienced that?
I have.
So
I have.
what happened that caused you to realize that not everybody's the same?
Just exposure to different people, right? Hearing people's stories, learning to listen more than I speak. A lot of that allows you to really get to know an individual and know that just because, I'm born and raised here and this is what I'm used to, that's not what it always is.
So tell me about that stoic face.
I don't know where it comes from. It's
so
just me.
What do they call it? They call it the resting face, and y'all can fill in the blank. All right, the resting bee face. But do you feel as though that has prevented you in different aspects or earlier in your career?
I think it has caused a lot of people to question me. Do I like my job, right? Am I happy about being here? And I am. And a lot of times I tell them, and now that's kind of my lead in. Don't let my face fool you. If you want to know about me, why don't you just come have a conversation with me? And then you'll realize if I walk around smiling, then I'm going to feel like I'm being phony. Not saying that I don't smile, I do, but this is just my face, right? But a lot of people will say, well, you look angry, or what's wrong with you today? Well, nothing's wrong with me. Just have this conversation with me. But I think once people really get to know me, get to know who Danielle is, and they understand that. So
it could be the fact that people are afraid for what's out of the norm to them. If they don't look at you and you look like someone they're used to, they have a preconceived notion that you are this. How do you tackle that on a day-to-day basis? Because I know being on a military installation, you deal with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. When people come at you with their preconceived notion, how do you respond to it?
I just tell them who I am. This is my face. I can't, it's unnatural for me to just walk around and start smiling all the time. I tell them if I am, right, then you might want to worry because something might really be wrong with me, right? But it's just through conversation. It's just through getting to know people, right? Once people have that conversation with me, then they realize, oh, this is her face. Maybe I'm thinking about something, but I've never been off-putting to someone. If you want to come up to me and have a conversation, then let's have that conversation. I'm not afraid now to be able to walk up to someone and say, hey, how you doing today? Let's talk a little bit. And then they see beyond this, right? Okay. And they understand the layers of who I am. So
I think that's very important. Go ahead.
Would you consider yourself an introvert or extrovert?
I would probably say introvert. When it comes up to talking to people one-on-one, that's what's natural for me. We can have several conversations in the office and I'm good, right? But if I have to get up and talk in front of large groups, especially groups that I'm not familiar with or I don't know, that's when a lot of the nervousness and things start to come in. Preparedness helps me deal with a lot of that, knowing my audience, knowing who I'm speaking to, things like that. Just getting uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. So okay. I'm an open person, but if you want me to come into a room and just be that, that person that's out there like, hey, that's not me. So
okay. Well, that's good. So what's your motivation, or who is your motivation or inspiration?
So my motivation comes a lot from my mother. She had kids very young in life, but she never let that stop her from making sure that we were taken care of. So when you talk about resilience and things like that, she had a lot of struggles in her life, but she always made it through it. She doesn't feel that way if you have that conversation, but she is the one that told me that struggles will come, but you have to continue to press on through everything that you do. So
that's good.
Good information.
That is. So when it comes down to being a superintendent, what would you say is one of the biggest struggles being in your position, being a woman in that position, but in a black woman in that position, what would you say has been the biggest struggle?
I think the fact that, I've made it to this position. It wasn't by accident, right? But I still feel sometimes that I have to prove myself. Once you prove yourself, then, you're good. But I'm different in the aspect when it comes to definitely I listen more than I speak, like I said. I don't speak just because, I'm in this position. I speak when I feel like I need to say something or I need to add value or whatever it is to the conversation. So it's constantly that, yes, you've got the position, but let me really see what you're working with, right? Sometimes I feel like I've been tested when I feel like others in that position might not have been. But I don't let it bother me, right? Because at the end of the day, for me, it's about taking care of my people.
Yes, absolutely.
You bring up something very critical, where people may present a challenge to you that others may not have to endure. Do you take that personally?
Sometimes, I can't lie. Sometimes it bothers me because, why I can give an instance where I was put into a position while I was deployed that was normally for a higher rank than mine. But they put me in there. I didn't ask for it, right? It was, hey, I need you to go and do this. So when I first got out there, it was like, oh, well, you're not this, so I just need you to understand.
So they just put you in your place, right?
Right,
or tell
right.
you where you need to be.
So finally, I just had to come to the conversation and look, I didn't ask to come here. You guys asked me to come here, so what I'm asking for you to do is allow me to do my job. I'm not out. I understand what the job entails. No, yes, this is my first time, so there are things I might mess up. There are things that I'm going to have to learn, but I'm asking you to have that trust in me and give me the ability to do my job. And once they did, things were good, but why did it have to come to that point? So that kind of bothered me for a little bit. But again, at the end of the day, your focus is on taking care of your people. But with Danielle, it kind of irked me a little bit. Why do I have to even go through this?
Good point. Well, we got a question from our man's big Herm. What's going on, brother? He says, because appearance matters. When you think about customer service, we're always taught to smile at customers. Is it unreasonable to come to a judgment of someone based on first impression?
I think it can be, for me, knowing who I am, and that's the comment that I always get, it could be unreasonable. Now, if I'm mean mugging someone when they come up and I got that standoffish, don't talk to me look, well, that's different. But if you come up to me as a customer and you're asking me a question and the way that I respond, that's where you get your perception of me, right? I'm never going to be rude. I'm never going to be arrogant or anything like that. I'm never going to just give you the Heisman. I'm going to talk to you and help you through your question. So what a person may see coming up versus the experience they get may be totally different.
Okay. So what is your button? So how does someone push your button? Because when I see you in the office, you just seem chill all the time. Like, hey, what's up? Come on in. But what is it that grinds your gears?
So it depends on the situation.
And bring out that Detroit, for real.
My pet peeve is, I guess when it comes to work is complacency, right? We are here, and I always tell people my sole purpose exists to help folks be able to do their job, right? Servant leadership is what it's about. So when I have individuals who don't get that, right, and now it's time to come in and save the day or whatever you want to call it, that bothers me. So I always have that calm face because I get that a lot too. Senior, you're just so smooth and it seems like you never get upset. Well, if you were inside my head, you would understand.
There's some problems going
on. You would understand. And there are times where we'll have to have that conversation. So if I'm disappointed or anything like that, and a lot of it is learning, so I understand that as well. Maybe they're doing it because they just don't know. But let's have this conversation because at the end of the day, it's never about you. Everything you do affects someone else. So when people miss that point, that is kind of my pet peeve when it comes to things.
So in your position, a lot of the importance of energy in any situation, especially as a superintendent, your people are going to feed off your energy. What kind of energy do you think you project to those around you?
I think I definitely let folks know that teamwork is very important to me. Nothing happens in a bubble, and nothing that we do can be done on our own. So don't devalue other people. Everyone who puts on the uniform, everyone that comes to work every day, whether it's civilian, military, it doesn't matter, officer, enlisted, we all have a job to do, but we're stronger together than if we try and do it on our own. So I'm a big believer in teamwork. You know, can I get pumped up and cheer on my team? And, you know, hey, when it comes to the award ceremonies and things like that, so let's show up and show out. I'm all for that, right? So I think it's just teamwork, right? Nothing is done by yourself. And I think sometimes because we can be competitive when it comes times for competing for promotions and things like that, people tend to forget that. But I believe your success is in how you treat others. I've gone up not because of what my leadership wants me to do, but because I've taken care of those people that I've worked with day to day.
Awesome. So are you the first in your family to be in the military?
For as long as I have been, yes. So
Really?
I've had my grandfather serve for a little while. I've had some uncle and some cousins that were in the Army for a short amount of time. I have a cousin that is in the Army now, so me and him are pretty much the only ones in my family on my mother and my father's side that will have a long career in the military and have retired.
Okay, so what type of tradition would you say or would you like to carry on moving forward in your family, your immediate family? Because you have a daughter, correct?
I have a daughter and a son.
Okay, daughter and son. So what would you like to instill in them and to cause or to say this is our tradition?
When it comes to our family time, kind of our tradition that we built, and it's pretty basic and simple. We have our Friday night family nights,
Okay.
right? So that is when it doesn't matter what's going on. They got homework, they got whatever. This is our time for us, you know, and that we really look forward to that. Whether it's watching a movie, whether it's going out, going bowling, just the simple stuff. That's the things that we do, just to let them know that life is going to happen, right? But family is important. So sometimes you have to take that step back and be able to focus on each other and focus on self. We're able to talk and communicate. A lot of times you do have those stressors in your day and things like that, but we set all that aside and it's like, hey, you know, how was your day? What's going on in your mind right now? Where they can really feel that outlet and be open, where we really talk to each other. So,
Okay. So there's a perception that women in leadership positions are too emotional, right? They cry babies. Look, she over here, she feeling bad about this, da-da-da. Don't tell her this because she go whine about it. How do you balance that?
So-
By keeping your emotions out of it, but still in it at the same time?
it's hard, right? So, you know, this is where I talk about there's different masks that you have to wear, right? So when I'm at home, I have a mask on. I'm mom, right? Even though in all of that, I'm still me, but there's a different way I have to present myself. So when I'm at work, there's a mask on, you know, I'm Senior Brown, right? But there's also a vulnerability that people need to see in you. So are you going to have hard days? Yes, you're going to have hard days. And it's okay for people to be able to see that, right? We're human. You know, I think, you know, we have issues with things going on in the military right now because people are afraid to take that mask off and let you know that hey, life happens, you know, but how are you going to try to be resilient and bounce back from that? So are there days in the office where, you know, I might have to close my door and shed a couple? Maybe, right? I have that close circle of friends that I know I can reach out to. That's kind of my balance, knowing when I need to, hey, maybe I need to just step back and take a break. You know, sometimes God has a way of slowing you down even when you don't want to slow down.
I'm telling you. I read something that said if you ever wanted to make God laugh, and we talked about this, you tell him your plan, because it's like, oh, for real? Psych. Nah, check it out. So what would you say to the young airman, young lady that's going through things or that's in a predominantly male, you know, shop or organization as far as finding her way? What would you tell her as far as encouragement?
Stay true to who you are. You know, yes, there's a job and there's standards and expectations for the job, but you have to know the difference, right? It doesn't mean you have to come in beating your chest, right? If you're not that person. If you're the quiet and reserved person, be the quiet and reserved person. You know, if you're doing your job, if you're taking care of business, if you're taking care of your people, that will be seen. Are you going to have haters that may come in sometime and try and shut you down? Maybe. But you have people in other areas that see the truth and know what's going on and understand your worth. Don't be afraid to step up, obviously, if things are not right and you are being mistreated, because we have different resources and things like that. But you got to stay true to who you are. Once you get into that bubble where you feel like you have to be somebody else, now you've missed the mark, and you're going to constantly be battling with something within yourself that's not right.
Absolutely right. And I'll let you ask your question, but what I want to say is, not only do I appreciate you coming here, but within, I think, the first maybe week and some change, we started talking, and I was like, man, I wish I knew you about 10 years ago.
We had some great conversations.
But that's all it took. You get what I mean? And then I received a little spark, like, okay, somebody got your back. Right, because they are talking to you, not at you. They're talking to Seth, not Master Sergeant Miller. You know what I mean? Because some people only see that. So I appreciate you. I appreciate that, and I'm sure anyone that's in your responsibility will get that authenticity. What you got, Will?
So Seth was asking you about kind of as a superintendent, how do you really assert yourself as a leader to a certain degree? So I work for a 2-star general, female. She about 5'4", and when all these men, other generals, colonels around her, she stands her ground, but she stays true to who she is. So he was asking, what do you tell some of the other young ladies that may be going through trying to find themselves? You hit that nail on the head. Be yourself. But what I see is a lot of young folks need some help deciding who that person is. So what do you do when you catch someone that's trying to kind of develop who they are? How do you assist them with finding who they are and their why?
A lot of it is peeling the onion back, right? Asking questions, get to know them, get to know them beyond the uniform. Why are you here? What drove you to this place? What are your motivators? What are your goals? What are some of the things you want to do? And then keep them focused on that. It's not just about the promotion. It's not just about a position, because whenever you get into that, with each position becomes greater responsibility, right? And that's going to be tough, which is more things you have to juggle. You're still going to have life. You're still going to have anything else that may come into play, school, whatever you're working on. But being able to remember your why, just like you said it, you have to remember your why and let that be your driver for going through. And I've had several bad days where I've questioned my why. Am I still cut out for this? Sometimes I'm getting tired, but when I think back, and it never fails, because it's always on those days where I'll get a message from someone that I used to work with, just, asking for some guidance, or just saying thank you, or asking for some help. And that's my why. That's why I'm here. So again, that might be some divine intervention or something like that. When I do get in those days, like maybe it's time for me to step aside and let someone else come through, because I've been doing this for a minute, but I'm not tired yet, right? I still feel like I have that drive to serve others, and there are people that need that guidance and need that advice. Sometimes people don't see what you see in them, so it's helping them grow into those positions.
So if you had to think about your entire military career, what do you want your legacy to be when you finally do decide to retire and hang it up? What are you going to leave behind?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think on that one. I guess kind of just what I've been saying, knowing that you can still succeed by being yourself, knowing that you can still succeed by showing vulnerability. A lot of people equate vulnerability with weakness. To me, vulnerability is power.
It's human.
Because those struggles that I've been through, as much as they sucked, as much as, they made me shed so many tears, they've also helped me develop into the person that I am today. And I'm continuing to grow each and every day. So each one teach one, right?
There we go.
When there's a quote, one of my favorite quotes is by Dr. Maya Angelou, with one of the poems she said, and at the end of it was, when you get, give, and when you learn, teach. Be able to share that with others, so that's kind of what keeps me focused, and when I have my bad days, and you know, when I'm frustrated, and when I'm ready to just be like, all right, I think Danielle's done what she needed to do here, I'm gonna move on. But that's what keeps me focused. So just, you know, helping them find their why, understanding why they're here. Their best is their best. It doesn't mean that it has to match what this is up here. If they know that they're doing that, then they're good.
That's true.
If y'all missed it, she put that finger up. That's equivalent to when she ready to press that retirement button. Y'all didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, so you've been in for a minute and you've seen different things change. Not just the uniforms. Oh my goodness. What was it? BDUs.
Right. I came in and BDUs.
Right.
So.
Now we OCPs. Now we're gonna have something else freaky in the year. But let's talk about the word resilience. And I know you and I have talked about it before, but what do you think the cause of the lack of resilience is? And do you think it contributes to the suicide rates? And what do you see?
I think some of it is generational differences, right? Some of our kids don't have some of the mental resilience that we had when we were coming in. A lot of it, I think, that we can get back to is just by being real, you know, and this is kind of what I talked to you about. Let's just sit down and have a conversation where the uniform doesn't matter. You know, when I was at a previous base, we had an airman start kind of a movement, right, where people would come, we were all in civilian clothes, so you didn't know if it was a lieutenant colonel talking, you didn't know if it was an airman talking, you didn't know if it was a senior NCO talking, but they shared their stories, and it was deep. You know, these were talking about, you know, problems that they had with parents, abusive relationships, folks that had, you know, suicidal tendencies, the LGBT community and their struggles. You know, there were so many tears shed, but there was so much help that happened in those two events that they had, where I think people really grew. And it because people allowed each other to see the person behind the uniform. And it let people know that just because we wear this uniform, we all have life struggles that we're going to go through. So hearing their stories of how they got through them, knowing now I have someone that relates to me, I'm not the only one that's going through, there was power in that movement. You know, I think there's a lot of power when it comes to testimony, but people are afraid to share it because it's going to show a sign of weakness. You know, I'm in this position, so there can't be anything wrong with me, right? But that's not true.
It's the human factor. I think the relatability to the younger generation and the older generation is what's missing. People get to focusing more so on promotion, which is a self-promotion,
Exactly.
versus promoting the individuals to have that relationship. So you got a lot of younger folks thinking they're by themselves. So as a leader, if people aren't coming to knock on your door, blowing up your cell phone, I think you probably need to reevaluate your leadership.
That's very true. You know, a lot of people, friends will tell me, because there are times where it's 4:00 in the afternoon and I'm like, holy cow, I'm just now sitting down at my computer. They're like, well, just close your door. I can't. I cannot close my door because I don't want to give anyone the impression that I'm shutting myself off. You know, so whatever it is, again, because I'm here, my job is to help other people. If I say, you know, give me 5 minutes, sometimes that might have to happen if I have a meeting or something that I have to go to. But if my door is always closed, what kind of message am I sending to them?
Leave me alone.
All right, so we got a question, and we talked about it a little bit, but what aspect of your life is holding you back right now? Do you think anything that's holding you back?
Me, really. I am my biggest roadblock.
Hold on, wait a minute. Let me make sure your mic is on and everything is hot so y'all can hear that. Say it one more time. What's holding you back?
I would say me.
It's an accountability piece.
It is. It is. You know, that saying that we are our biggest critics is very, very true. You know, so life experiences, you know, things that have, even though people say I don't project it, there's a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-conscious that I'm still working my way through, you know, that I think in some ways have stopped me from getting to that next level. You know, but slowly and surely I'm getting back to me. You know, I'm finding that balance, taking care of Danielle. You know, they had the National Prayer Breakfast on base the other day, and Chief Bass was the speaker. And she talked about how self-care is not selfish, you know, and to me, that resonated with me. So that kind of helps me balance, because if you're off balance, how can you help someone else?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Wolf.
I just flew back from Vegas. They said, hey, put your own mask on
There you
before
go.
you try to help somebody else.
Right.
So that's very true. And I think sometimes as leaders, we have so much responsibility and expectation for us to be there for everybody else. Who's there for us is what's missing, and that causes you to break down. So you mentioned you have a circle of individuals that you kind of bounce things off of, kind of like your safe place.
Yep.
So if someone doesn't have that safe place, where can they start at to develop that type of outlet for themselves so they themselves don't break down? What kind of information can you offer up to them?
There's different resources, you know, but it all takes trust, right? It all takes you to be able to trust someone, to be able to even open up and have that conversation, to share what you're going through. So we can preach, yep, there's mental health and, you know, there's the chaplains and things like that. But if that person has issues with those individuals, how are they going to be able to go to them? So a lot of it comes back to that real talk. You know, hey, I get it. I understand we have issues. But if you stay there, you're going to be stuck there and you're never going to continue to grow. So how can I help you get past this point? And then it's just sitting back and listening. You know, as leaders, sometimes you're automatically the fixer. Yep, you got this problem. I'm going to just point you here, here, and here, and this is what you need to do. That's not always what people need. Sometimes they just need you to listen.
So how would you encourage an individual to use that real talk, but to generate that trust to get realistic feedback, right, for their evaluations or feedback in general? Because there were years I did not get a real, no kidding feedback. What I would get is, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. Apparently what I'm doing ain't working and you're not giving me what I need. But how would you encourage that? Or how would you set the tone? Or a young airman that's going through this, how would you help them to set that tone so they can get realistic feedback?
They got to be able to communicate, right? They have to be able to be comfortable with going to who their leadership is. And sometimes feedback goes both ways. So I tell them, you know, if you feel like you're not getting what you need from a supervisor or whatever, you've got to be able to have that conversation. Because if you come to me, I'm going to help. But if I go to that supervisor, now they're going to feel like they're doing something wrong. You know, sometimes it's much better to get that feedback from a peer or from someone that that I'm responsible for, to let me check myself in a way. But it's also being open to that criticism, right? Because if you think you're just marching and you're doing right, and then you get that open, honest feedback, it's like, that can't be true. Well, maybe it is.
Yeah,
right?
and that's the deal, because I think people want to hear what's right all the time. Hey, you're doing that right, you're doing that right. But then they say they don't get the right feedback.
Right.
So I think sometimes individuals are just looking for what they want to hear.
Exactly.
Versus what they need to hear.
And it's being open to what you need to hear. And I tell a lot of supervisors, you know, because a lot of it is supervisors too, right? We're afraid to give that honest feedback. So I tell them, you know what, give your subordinate the feedback form. Ask them to rate themselves and see what they would come out with. A lot of times they're going to rate themselves a lot harsher than what you would do. Now you bridge that gap. Okay, if you think you're here, why is that? Now we can open up the conversation for communication, because they've opened that first step to say, hey, here's where I think I am, but why? You know, what is it that you're not getting? What is it that I'm not doing for you, right? Because as supervisors, it's our job to lead and develop. How do I help you get there?
I would say sometimes you might have to show them what the feedback form is.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've seen, and a lot of times if someone's coming to the superintendent with an issue, maybe that supervisor isn't approachable or took an actual interest in that individual, so they didn't go to them because they never made it available to them. And sometimes you may be the difference between that supervisor getting up and taking accountability versus them just kind of going with the flow.
Very true.
There's some airmen that just give up. Well, I tried. They don't respond to my text messages. Like, ask the supervisor, when the last time you been to the dorms? Where the dorms at? As a superintendent, when the last time you been to the dorms? well, I got these EPRs to do. You got excuses.
Yep.
The airmen don't really accept excuses. They think that you don't care.
So with that being said, what do you think you don't have enough time to do and why?
When it comes to work, sometimes it's being that visible person in the organization, because there's several meetings throughout the day, there's several deadlines that you have to hit, but that's where that balance comes in for me. I'm a single mom, so there's things that I got to get done during the duty day, because when I go home, it's time to take this uniform off and be mom. So I can't always get around and be as visible that I want to. So, it's when you talk words, you also need to put them into action. So getting around and being out a little bit more, because, the agency that we work in, we're all over the place.
That's right.
If it's different if it's in one building, but we're not. We're spread out all over the base. So just getting out, being more to kind of let them know that, senior's not just here when somebody's in trouble or somebody's coming around. Senior's here because she really cares. So slowly but surely, as I'm getting comfortable with the position, it's more talking, more group talks. Let's get the airmen together. And there's no agenda. Just, hey, tell me what's on your mind. This is our time where we have to talk with one another. The NCOs, what's challenging for you? What can I do to help? Things like that.
So you make time.
You have to make time.
You have to make
That's
time.
key.
It's hard,
Yes,
right?
it is.
And I'm getting there. Some things better than others, but slowly but surely, I think that's where I've been successful in my career, because eventually I get to that point where I'm making time. People know, hey, if she says she's going to be there, she's going to be there. So I know I can come and talk to her.
And if you're not, there's a reason why.
Right.
Right. And I appreciate that. And I'm sure the airmen do too. So enough about you wearing a uniform. What do you see as far as your life, how Danielle is going to operate with the uniform off? How do you want that to look?
Continuing to give back, so I'm working on my degree in human resource management. So I would still like to stay connected with the military, maybe working with the VA or something like that, but still continuing to give back and helping others. So
Now you want to do it, would you do it as let's say a social work, like deeper in the community, or you just want to stay with the military, just helping out that area?
Right now, I say in the military, but you never know. Never sell yourself short, because you never know what might happen. That's where I'm comfortable. This is what I've been doing for the past 24 years. So that's where I would start. But if there's a bigger need and I feel that sense of purpose, because that's my passion, right? Then obviously I'll gravitate towards whatever that is.
There you go.
Okay. Go ahead, what you got, man? Hey, so anyway, I want to let you guys know if you have a question and if you want to ask it, this is the time to do it. The number is below 618-792-6747. But I do want to thank you for coming out and giving us your infinite wisdom and happy Women's Day and everything. What is it that you would like to leave as far as a message to women today?
Just don't lose yourself. Stay true to who you are. So often in life, we have to be so many things to so many different people. So much so that we forget who we are, and for the longest time with me, that's where I was. So within the past maybe couple years, I've slowly started getting back to self, and I feel much more at peace. I'm happier, my energy is coming back, things like that. So just whatever it is, stay true to who you are, know yourself, use that self-care because it is ever so important, and then keep that circle of friends around that you trust, because when you're falling down, they'll be the ones that'll be there to lift you up.
And speaking of that self-care, how do you unwind? Do you listen to some music? You go to the gym? You get your foot rubbed on? Or what would you do?
Check on all of the above.
Box of wine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I definitely like going to the gym. I have to, right? It's part of my job, but
Right.
I do find that as being my outlet. So 2, 3, depending on how my week goes, I'm usually at the gym, by 4 o'clock in the morning, music is definitely an outlet for me. So putting on some Maxwell or some Sade.
Hold on, wait.
Like
Going
that.
to the gym with some Maxwell?
No.
I was about to say you can't be.
I have my workout mix
You mess around
when
and
I
fall
go
off
to the
elliptical.
gym.
All
But
right.
when I'm just unwinding, right, it is listening to, to some soft music or whatever, just kicking back, relaxing, spending time with friends, just getting together, just chatting. It's not necessarily going out to the clubs or anything like that. Just getting with that group of people that I can relate to and kick back. And then obviously my kids in my life. So It doesn't matter what kind of day I'm having, spending time with them, just being able to look at them. That is, even though they get on my nerves sometimes, that is my re-motivation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I read somewhere that your kids are like your best broke friend. They always there, they with you, they ready to ride, but they ain't got no money. But if you can name 5, or let's say 3 artists, since you're talking about music and I'm a music head, who would they be that represents your life, your soundtrack?
Oh gosh.
Because you said Maxwell, but
I do like Maxwell.
Like when you at the gym, who you rocking to?
It's just upbeat music, honestly. So I'll go on Pandora and find out like today's hits workout mix. So whatever that is, just upbeat music. So when I'm on the elliptical, I can go with the beat.
So your top 3 that represents you.
You gotta say Eminem. You said Detroit, right?
Man, shut up. Hey, at least you ain't say Nelly.
No,
hey, I'm
it's
sorry,
not.
y'all. Shout out to them for saying. Ain't nothing wrong with country grammar. All right. Hey, all right. Anyway, but go ahead.
So the artist I like the most right now, I really like Jhené Aiko.
She pretty dope.
I really like, let me think.
You can go old school.
Her.
Oh, you like her too?
I do like
Look
her.
at you, boy. Let me find out. I'm going to have to make you a soundtrack playlist. Okay, you like
Old
her?
school, Anita Baker. It's probably definitely one of my
Got to
favorites.
go back to the
So,
crib. Yes,
Nothing wrong with
yes. Well, thank you. And everybody, we want to thank you guys for listening and being a part of the Lions Den. Thank you, ma'am, for blessing us.
Thanks for having me.
And coming on through it. You can come anytime. But before we go, I want to give a special shout out for those that don't know all the beautiful scenery. Every time we do our advertisement on Facebook, it's Innovation Photography. All right, make sure y'all go and check him out. He's on Facebook and Instagram and all that. So that's Innovative Photography. We appreciate you, brother, seriously, for doing your thing. And everyone that's there, out there, inside, we appreciate y'all. And we will see y'all again next week. Holla at you.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. Make sure to listen to the show on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, and Radio Public, where you can subscribe, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you like or dislike this episode, we'd appreciate your feedback on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Lionscast. Check out the book, The Black Collar Mindset, The Art of Strategic Thinking, on Amazon, or www.theblackcollarmindset.com, a manual to maneuver through life strategically by holding yourself accountable. Tune in next week for another episode of The Lions Den with Seth.